Our next speaker is Christian Galindo. He embodies a passion for horticulture and a wealth of experience in the green industry. With a diverse background and impressive credentials, Christian has become a leading authority in adapting to changes in the field. Christian brings a keen understanding of subtropical and Mediterranean climates to his role as Vice President General Manager at Brightview. Today, he'll enlighten us on the intricacies of integrated pest control, which is not the children that's running around in the shrubbery at your common spaces, but showcasing his dedication to sustainable horticulture practices. So please help me in welcoming Christian. Christian.
Good morning. How's everyone doing today? This one? So, today, I'm here to talk a little bit about integrated pest management as it relates to water quality management, and maybe what are the few things we can do to improve our environment and help save some water and also the environment. So I'm going to start by perhaps reading the definition of integrated pest management as presented by UC IPM. IPM is an ecosystem-based strategy that focuses on long-term prevention of pests or their damage through a combination of techniques such as biological control, habitat manipulation, modification of cultural practices, and use of resistant varieties. So you can see we start about talking about things that are not pest killing, right? Pesticides are used only after monitoring indicates that they are needed according to the established guidelines, and treatments are made with the goal of removing only the target organism. Pest control materials are selected and applied in a manner that minimizes risk to the human health, beneficial and non-target organisms, and the environment, right? So that's where we really can make a difference. We think about IPM as maybe targeting pests and trying to get rid of them, but we really need to think about IPM as an integrated system where we're actually taking care of our plants and our landscape, and we're preventing pests from happening. Healthy plants, healthy landscapes are going to be much better adapted to combat pests, right? And there's a lot of different things that we are going to be doing to improve quality, and water management is a really big part of this, right? Think about what happens when we don't manage water properly. Our plants start getting sick, they get stressed, and then things can get to them. You know, you get borers on trees, you get diseases on plants, your turf gets stressed, it thins, weeds pop up. Or if you're overwatering, you start getting fungus problems, you getting diseases. So the way that we manage and maintain our landscapes has a huge impact on the health of the plants and their ability to combat pests. Because insects are just part of the environment. In fact, the majority of the insects are beneficial. 90% of the insects have a very positive impact to our environment, and a few of them are pests, right? So this is why I'm here, right? So a lot of times we fail to look at IPM as a system. And you can see that it's not something that you can do in isolation. It has to be environmentally safe. It has to be socially acceptable. It has to be economically viable. If we don't have buy-in and we don't understand what IPM is, it's not really going to work well, right? We need to have a key understanding of the pests, their biology, their life cycles, and how to manage them. We have to have a good understanding of the resources and knowledge out there to be able to manage these pests. And we need to be able to plan this appropriately throughout the year so that we are proactive and not reactive to managing pests. And most importantly, having a good communication system where we talk to our stakeholders, our residents, all the people that are involved, and how we're going to achieve this the best way and most environmentally sound. So, a really important part of this is it has to have economic viability. If it costs too much to do it, nobody is going to want to engage, right? So, as somebody said, the best water is the water that we didn't have to buy. It's the same thing with integrated pest management. If you don't have to use pesticides, if you don't have to manage the pest, then you're going to be doing a lot of savings. So having an economically sound program with tangible benefits is more likely to be successful than others. So what drives social acceptability? Well, first, information, news, science, social media, sometimes good information, bad information, marketing, lack of information or fear. So how do we make sure that our programs have buy-in with our customers? Well, we need to inform and educate, right? A lot of times I feel that people don't do things or don't want to manage things one way or another because they're afraid or they don't understand. So it is really our responsibility as landscape service providers and educators to bring this information to everyone. So obviously, one of the things that I really care about is reducing the use of chemicals. How do we get away from them? How do we improve our ecosystems to make them better, right? So there's a few things that are involved in IPM, and this is just a list of the different practices that we can use to improve control of pests. There's the biological control, which I will expand later, chemical control, and cultural. And I think we all have a big impact on what we can do for cultural control, which includes mechanical and physical activities to reduce pest habitat and improve quality of landscape. So biological control is a pest management tactic involving the deliberate use of natural enemies to reduce pest populations. Natural control involves other agents other than natural enemies, and non-purposeful manipulation is involved. And if its efficacy may be affected by weather, food, etc. So what does that mean? So there's a lot of little wasps out there that are affecting our aphids. There's other perhaps owls and beneficial organisms that are out there helping control the pests. And obviously, they're going to be affected by the weather, by the supply of food, etc. So we want to make it a good environment for them to thrive if we want them to be helpful in IPM. If we're doing a lot of things that kills them, which is using pesticides and such, then they're not going to be as active and helpful in managing the pests. So biological and natural control uses things like predatory insects like your ladybugs, parasitoids, which are little wasps, and other organisms like flies that go and infect other pests, and vertebrates that we might not even be thinking about, like reptiles, amphibians, birds, and mammals that are out there helping us reduce pest population. So aside from the biological control, as I mentioned, we have a huge impact on what we can do to improve our IPM programs. And the cultural practices include things that have to do with water, like good design of hydrozones, proper system installation and management. Who's seen their turf go downhill because you have improper sprinkler systems where you don't have coverage and you start getting hot spots, and all of a sudden you have thin turf, and then the weeds start creeping into these areas, and then you water again, you fix it, and now you have weeds to deal with. Or we didn't fertilize at the right time and the turf starts stressing and it's not well fed, so now it can get infected, right? So all of these things are things that we do to improve the quality of our landscape that will impact their ability to fight pests. Also, plant selection. You know, in our effort to do drought tolerance, we brought a lot of species from the desert that perhaps are not adapted to this environment. And all of a sudden we have Palo Verde getting tremendous amount of powdery mildew, and now we have to spray powdery mildew 4 times a year to keep them healthy. So we need to look at the species and what we're growing and see whether they're adapted to our ecosystem, right? And how well is that going to go in your IPM program? So we want to make sure that we're choosing plants that are resistant or with pest tolerance, plants that are going to thrive and going to need minimum input when it comes to chemicals. Good maintenance practices, minimal pruning to remove disease, crossing branches, leave better airflow to prevent pests, minimize injury in plants. eliminating host plants and vectors. There's a lot of stuff out there that will harbor our pests, including weeds. And if we eliminate those, we're going to have less problem, right? Sanitation of our tools, how we work in the field, how we move around the field impacts things. How many of you have ever had a Canary Island palm decline because it was pruned with an improper tool? It happens, right? A lot of you have experienced that. So sanitation is really important, and training our employees about how to do this well is really critical. I can't overemphasize the use of mulch. Mulch is one of those things that's really going to help reduce weed populations, reduce water waste, and slowly condition your soil and improve the soil structure, which is really critical in having good landscapes. Mechanical and physical controls, these are just a few things that I can mention that are things we can do to reduce pest populations that don't involve other chemical uses. Right? Obviously, your last choice is a chemical option, and in the chemicals we have organic options, we have non-organic options, we have even biological options in the chemical control, but this should be used as our last resort because that means that something didn't go well, right? We want to keep our insect populations below the threshold where chemical control is needed. So I'm just bringing a few examples of natural enemies in Orange County. I know there's not a lot of time, and I have a lot to share, so we'll try to get through this. But other insects will really help in controlling your pests locally. And what I've noticed personally is that communities that engage in biological control or suppress their use of pesticides have environments that are more conducive for these natural enemies to thrive. And as you start doing your scouting and your monitoring of your pests, you're going to start seeing that there's more parasitic wasps active, that you have more beneficials, and maybe you don't have to spray. Maybe there's an outbreak of aphids, but if you go and inspect them carefully and you see that you have natural enemies, avoid spraying because they're doing the job for you, right? So that's really important. So that's what I'm trying to say. Don't scout for pests only. Scout for natural enemies as well. Let them be part of the equation. If you don't, they won't thrive. So we really are part of helping them get established in our environment. Focusing on developing a landscape that helps nature take control. So that's really an important part of the change that we have to make happen, right? That's something that I think we don't do enough. And there's a lot of different natural enemies out there, but what we do in the landscape impacts their populations. If we're using pesticides, we might be dwindling their populations. And it takes time to build them, so we want to focus on protecting them. Little things out there that you might not even think about are doing their job. Who knows about nematodes? We can buy nematodes out there, and they help us control grubs and many other problem pests. And this is an example of a pupa that was infected with nematodes, right? It kills them. Who has grub problems in their lawn? Nematodes will also help control the grubs, and they're very affordable. If you don't have them in your ground, you add them to your ground, and then you've got established populations that will be able to continue to thrive through the years, and you're gonna reduce your need to use imidacloprid and other of those pesticides that can end up in your water downstorm and affect your crustaceans and your marine wildlife. So really trying to make a conscious effort of change. You can purchase them for release. They're there in nature, but they're also available commercially. So that's something that will help us. So there's a lot of different things that we can do. Ladybugs, both of their life cycles, the matures and the matures, help consume a lot of different pests that we have, and we just need to learn a little bit more about them. This is a biological control pesticide called BT that you can purchase, and what you're spreading is a bacteria that affects caterpillars. It goes into their stomach and it causes digestion problems, and then they eventually die. And it's really a successful way of targeting specific organisms and not affecting others, right? So there's a lot of different ways that biological control can really help us. So pest management should not focus on controlling pests, rather preventing them from becoming problematic. It should focus on building a healthy environment, maintaining healthy landscapes where plants are more resilient to common pests, where everything can coexist, right? So, I know it's not a lot of time to share about IPM. I actually have the opportunity to do a class at Saddleback College. I'm an adjunct faculty there, and I teach IPM every fall. And I get 19 weeks to talk about IPM and things that you can do better, right? So for me, it's like this feels really rushed. But Saddleback has a great sustainable horticulture program, and it's for everyone, right? A lot of my students are retired and homeowners that just want to be better gardeners, and we offer a great array of classes to really help improve sustainability in horticulture. So I welcome you to go online and look at Saddleback as one option to gain more information, because this is just a little tease of all that you can learn in IPM. I thank you so much for your time.